Waymo versus Tesla versus Uber. Let's just talk about this. What up, internet world? It's your boy Jermaine back with another video. Haven't made a video talking about, Waymo and Tesla and Uber, all three. Haven't made a video talking about these in a while. So let's just talk about this, because there's a lot that can be said about Waymo and how Waymo is basically taking over the streets of San Francisco. And let's just also talk about, Tesla, Uber. We can also mention Zoox too. But yeah, let's just dive on into this video. So right now what's going on is we have Waymo already on the roads operating fully autonomous cars with the LiDAR on top. People already see these cars. We're able to take rides. Yeah, this is cool, okay? We also have Tesla on the other hand. Tesla, they sold a lot of cars and they make full self-driving, which does not use LiDAR. Full self-driving mainly uses cameras, which is crazy. And the argument with this is humans just have eyes and humans don't have LiDAR. Also, LiDAR costs a lot more to put in cars. So with the Teslas, there's no LiDAR. Now, what about Uber? Where does Uber come into play? So they're not even in the autonomous game. But however, Uber is already operating today. So we have to sort of include Uber here. And let's just try to figure out who's going to win this battle. Now, let's just talk about the harsh reality of owning a car, okay? Car ownership in America is expensive. Where I grew up, Memphis, Tennessee, and surrounding the Memphis area, you would go outside on the outskirts and sometimes you'll see like a trailer park, right? And then you'll see like, big trucks in the trailer park, or you go to the hood and you see like, a Cadillac or something with some real nice rims or like some fancy car, right? A lot of people spend a lot of their income on their car. And for people that make less money, like let's say you make like, $50,000 a year and you live in the middle of the US, you could very well be spending $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 a year just on your car. Now, why do people need cars so much? Well, people need cars because you got to get to work, okay? And that's kind of the kicker. You need a car to get to work, but then you spend so much of your income on this car. So this is really the problem that Waymo and Tesla could greatly solve, because now if you could just take a Waymo or just take a self-driving car, maybe you don't need a car. And also, since you don't need a car, maybe you don't need to work as much if those rides for the self-driving, car is cheaper than car ownership. Why Uber's days are numbered. You guys remember how Uber got started? They basically came in, took over the taxi administration for the most part. So instead of taking taxis, people start to request Ubers. And I think the same thing is going to play out with Uber, with Robotaxi. There's a lot of people on YouTube, a lot of like Tesla fanboys. Everyone believes that Uber is going to stay in business and Tesla is going to be put on the Uber app and Waymo is going to be put on the Uber app. And I don't think Waymo needs Uber's technology, and I don't think Tesla needs Uber's technology. I think both of these companies, they got their own technology, right? I don't think they need Uber's app. I think they can just build their own app. Like I've used the Waymo app and the Waymo app works great. And Waymo is owned by Google. And of course, Google has so much data on all of us. So I just don't get why so many people out there believe that Waymo will be on the Uber app. I think that people will just download the Waymo app and get a ride. Just like I have multiple apps on my phone for, DoorDash, Uber Eats. I may have multiple apps on my phone for like banking, right? People have multiple apps on their phone. They'll just have multiple apps on their phone for a Robotaxi. You'll have Waymo. You'll have, maybe Tesla. When Tesla starts out rolling their whole self-driving feature, which I think is really, really awesome. I mean, we've been waiting for, it's more than 5 years now for Tesla's full self-driving to happen, and we're still waiting on it. So we'll have to see if it actually happens. Taking an Uber in San Francisco versus taking a Waymo, it can be a little tricky to take Uber versus Waymo. Uber will just pick you up pretty much anywhere, and they'll pretty much drop you off anywhere just because it's a human driver, and the human driver, they see you waiting out there on the street, they can pull up real quick, passenger pops into the car, the driver pulls away. Well, an autonomous car may not necessarily be able to do that because maybe that driver is picking up in a bus lane or a bus stop, but there's no bus around, so the driver's going to quickly pick that person up. Well, of course, a Waymo wouldn't stop there. And there's also other places that a Waymo would not stop. Sometimes you may be at one particular address, and if you request the Uber could go right to that address, go right out front of that address. However, if you request a Waymo, sometimes the Waymo will tell you to walk like up the street, or the Waymo may tell you to walk like up the block because it's a safe place for the Waymo to pull over. So this is just something to think about with a Waymo. Also, in traffic, let's say you're trying to make a right turn. Now, let's say I'm an Uber driver and I'm trying to get into the right lane. Well, I can fight my way and get into the right lane, okay? I can stop and wait till all the cars go up and then I can get in the right lane. Like, there's a lot of things for me to do to get into the right lane. I can even make a double right turn, right? That could be an option. However, I do see Waymos making double right turns every once in a while. But there are times where Waymo, it just can't get over because the cars won't let Waymo in. So Waymo can't get over. So Waymo is forced to go up the block and, make the route longer than what a human driver could have did, because maybe a human driver would have just forced their way in. So that is one tricky thing about Waymo. One reason I quickly fell in love with Waymo, I'll never forget this, is I was hanging out with a friend and we're out doing mushrooms in the city and we needed to get cross town. So we requested an Uber. When we requested an Uber, after we'd be on mushrooms, we sat in the back seat and we were just kind of like, just sitting in the back seat, like super quiet and super nervous because we didn't want to like laugh and like act weird because we were tripping and we didn't want the freak the driver out. And right when I got on the back seat and we were just like, keep it chill, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, we should have took Waymo. If we would have took Waymo with no one in the car, it would have been like totally normal. It would have been like just a normal day, we're just back there hanging out. Like we can talk about whatever we want. We can talk about politics. We can talk about, this hot chick walking down the street, and we don't have to worry about like offending the driver. So I was just kind of like, bro, I totally should have like got Waymo. So like now for the most part, I like mainly take like Waymo. If I take a ride, I usually don't take rideshare. I usually like bike everywhere or like cycle or drive my car, Also, the massive hate that Waymo is receiving from the Tesla community, I think is kind of a trip. If y'all don't know me, I'm a big Tesla fanboy. I've been, following the company for like almost 10 years now. And I notice how the Tesla fanboys, they always throw Waymo under the bus. They say Waymo can't scale, Waymo can't do this, Waymo can't do that. Well, guess what? Waymo is actually doing all of those things, and Tesla is not doing any of these things. Yes, Tesla has the manufacturing down, but yes, Tesla has not made a product that's proven to work. And this is a big deal. They have not made a car that can drive, like, with no one in the passenger seat, okay, from point A to point B. Waymo has figured that out. So we got to give credit where credit's due. Who has the best looking Robotaxi? Now, when it comes to the way that the Robotaxis look, you have, the Waymo vehicles with the, sensors on top. And then you have a couple of the newer Waymo vehicles that are being tested in San Francisco. You have the Tesla Robotaxi. And then you also have the Zoox Robotaxi. I am a huge fan of the Zoox Robotaxi. I think it is the coolest looking Robotaxi ever. And I think it's a great size. How, you don't have, how you're stepping into it. You're not like stepping down, like you're getting into a low rider like the Tesla Robotaxi. I totally get how, Tesla, they want to bring the cost down. And so many rideshare rides right now in the city are usually one passenger. So you don't really need a 4-passenger vehicle. But just the Tesla Robotaxi, it doesn't seem to be very practical. I mean, I just like the Zoox Robotaxi so much better. Like the Zoox Robotaxi is like, it is fly. It looks really, really cool. Now, other problems I see that's going to happen with Robotaxi is sometimes certain passengers just need help getting into the vehicle. Bottom line. For example, I was driving Uber a couple weeks ago, and there's a cruise boat in town. Now, whenever there's cruise boats in town, most drivers avoid the cruise boats because you get stuck in the traffic getting to the cruise boat. And then once you get to the cruise boat, it's usually two people, and they usually have three really large bags. Okay? So it's one of those jobs where you always have to get out the car, you always have to stick a bag in the back, put a bag on the front seat upside down, and then you have to like put a bag on the back with them. You know, because most people have small cars, because these bags are huge that they take on these cruise boats. So in that case, you know, a Robotaxi pulling up and, you know, picking up two senior citizens that are 65 years old, they're going to need some help getting into the Robotaxi. Okay? Someone that may have a wheelchair, they may need help getting into a Robotaxi. So it's not just we can just send Robotaxis out and it's going to solve our problems. No, there'll definitely be other problems that we will have to, that will definitely needs to be addressed. And I really think that Uber will eventually cease to exist, kind of like what they did to the taxi companies. I mean, Uber really didn't put any taxi companies out of business, but they basically, like, you know, really crashed their business. Like, I still see plenty of taxi companies driving around San Francisco, and I'm actually quite surprised and shocked. Taxis are still around. I'm really, really surprised. Like I say, they didn't necessarily kill their business, but they greatly watered it down. Who owns Waymo? Google. Yeah, Google has so much data. Google is the data king. Now, let's get back to Tesla. Let's talk about Tesla for a minute, because like I said, I am a super Tesla fanboy, and I just don't know exactly what's going on with Tesla and their whole Robotaxi. Elon has been saying for years, I believe like 7 years now. I think that he started in 2017. You know, Robotaxis are coming out. You know, I just don't, it's very hard for me to imagine that you can have Teslas driving around with no one in the car just using cameras. Like, I found that very, very hard to believe. And it's not just me. Most people find this very hard to believe. Now, I will say something else. Elon has pulled rabbits out of hats. Okay? When he shot a rocket up into space and landed the rocket on chopsticks, that was surprising. And some people will say that that's more difficult than self-driving cars. I mean, it might be more difficult than self-driving cars, but I don't know about just using cameras, because just using cameras seems like pretty tricky, pretty hard ordeal. I was also thinking, what if Tesla just surprised us? What if they surprise us, and what if they're actually able to pull it off with just camera? But then it made me wonder, what if they just start selling a LiDAR package? What if in 2 weeks Tesla says, okay, I've been promising, you know, full self-driving for all this time. Now, if you have a Tesla with hardware for $2,000, you can buy this device. You put it on the top of your car. You plug it in. It has LiDAR on top of the car. With this new package, your car can drive autonomously. You know, if Elon came out with something like that and it actually worked, I could see the cars driving themselves in. I could definitely see the cars driving themselves in. But if they don't come out with something like that, like I just don't believe that they're going to be able to drive with just cameras. Like, it's just too many edge cases, yo. Like, it's fog, it's wind, it's dust. I mean, it's so many weird scenarios. Like, I'd tell you one scenario, like, how would a car even react in this one? So when I first moved to California, I was driving near San Diego. And I remember I was driving on the 10, and it was really windy outside. I'm talking about crazy windy. And I'm just driving the car I'm my first time driving in California. And I'm like, wow, bro, it's just throwing the car around. And then I noticed there was cars up in front of me driving really slow with their hazard lights on. And at this point in time, I'm driving slow because the wind is just pushing the car so hard. And I'm just like, yo, this is crazy. Like, the speed limit is 65 and I'm going like 40. And I'm barely able to, like, you know, it's like pushing the car. And then all of a sudden, because this was in an area where there was a whole bunch of sand, all of a sudden I'm driving the car, and for about a little bit longer than 1 second, the car went completely black. I was driving the car, and everything in the car was dark for about a second and a half. And it was a sandstorm. and the sand was blowing across the road. And sometimes these sandstorms are so big that the sand blew across the road, and it was so much sand that it covered all the windows on the car, and it made it dark inside the car on a bright, sunny day. And you mean to tell me you're gonna put Teslas on the road with just cameras? I don't even know how a Waymo would react in that scenario. I would imagine the car would probably start to slow down in high winds like that, because like I say, when I mean high winds, I don't know how windy it was, but bro, it was gnarly. I could not believe how windy it was. And I remember just driving. It was stuff hitting the car, like trash on the road, like a bottle or something would hit the car, and I just was like, what was that? And it's just stuff on the side of the road. And I don't know how Tesla's gonna pull this one off. Like I said, maybe they can do it. Maybe they can make the cars drive really, really slow, and instead of driving 65 miles an hour, we take a Robotaxi, and the Robotaxi's driving 20 miles an hour. I don't know. I mean, I try to be bullish on Tesla. Like, I love Tesla. But come on, when you've been saying you're going to bring full self-driving for years and years and years, and we still don't have it, like, yeah, I don't know. But anyway, just wanted to make a quick video talking about, Waymo versus Tesla versus Uber. Uber is still king. The algorithm works against you if you're a driver. Robotaxis will probably do a whole lot better. Like, they'll do a whole lot better if they actually ever make it. Because I still hear a theory that maybe Robotaxis won't make it. I've definitely heard this argument that, maybe Waymo's not able to scale. And then someday in the future, we remember back in the day, one could take a self-driving taxi in San Francisco. I really think that this won't happen. I think we will go forward with, self-driving future. But there is that, possibility, like, what if all of this is just a house of cards? What if those really, really cool Waymo maneuvers that we see in the city, what if they are human teleoperated, and then what if this just, I don't know, what if they're faking it, What if they're faking it? Like, or is it real? Like, is it real? Like, I don't know. This is crazy. It's just a lot to think about. But anyway, want to make a quick video just talking about Waymo, Tesla, and Uber. We out. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks a lot for watching, and peace out, y'all.